Hey guys, Kev here, and I want to do my full review slash overview on the Arno Bernard IMamba. So this is a video coming for a long time, I guess, because I bought a V1, or no, I guess it's not even a V1. I guess it was just a previous model. I don't know what you'd call it. An older version, whatever. And if you go watch that video, I'll try to link it somewhere. You'll see I had some issues. The detent was not strong enough. It was, it was okay for the reverse flick, right? But the flipper just wasn't satisfying. It would flop out. You could fail it real easily, right? And then it was on loose bearings, but I never really got that far because, the detent was just giving me trouble. And I ended up returning it. They were super kind about it. I bought it from African Sporting Creations, and they were very nice about it. They let me return it, and I got my money back. And I had asked, do you have another one? I could just take that one instead. Maybe this is just a fluke with the detent. And they said, no, we set all the detents the same. So if you don't like it the way it is, you're probably just not going to like the model. So thank you for the feedback. But, you should probably just take the refund. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I grab a sip of my drink. So a year and a half, maybe even 2 years goes by. And in the last, 3 months or so, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about the IMamba. I think Cole over at Tri-State had one in or bought one. I can't remember. I didn't see the video, but I saw the thumbnail. Same with Transparent Knives. He was like modding them or something. And I think maybe a couple other people. Old man Bob Poncho, the old bastard. He had one too, or has one. Not sure. And I just kind of saw them popping up, but I wasn't paying too much attention because I was like, I had one and I fucking love the model. If you watch that video, you'll see my inner turmoil. Like, I was almost going to just keep it because I love everything else about it so much. But I just couldn't quite get there. So I did end up returning it. And then we got to Blade Show just a week or so ago in my time. This will post probably a while from now. But and Colin, my business partner with Divo Knives, he went over to the booth. He was raving. I mean, he was talking about Arno Bernard from day one. He was like, I want to get over to that booth because I want to get one of their slip joints. They have a slip joint. I think it's called the Wrinkles. And he went over there and he ended up buying one. He went back and forth, I think, once or twice. And then he did end up buying one. And I handled that and I was like, damn, this slip joint is fire. Like, it's really good. It has good walk and talk, all of that. It just had a clip. And I'm not a fan of clips on slip joints for two reasons. Usually, they're not reversible and they're only on the right side. And I just don't like clips on slip joints. I want to put it in a slip and then be done with it, right? Like, I like slip carry. It keeps it thin and lighter and everything. So anyway, he got that and I handled it and I was pretty impressed. So I was like, hey, maybe I'll go see if they have one without the clip or whatever. So day 2 of Blade Show, right as the beginning of the show, I went over there to just look. And I saw the slip joints and I was like, do you have any without clips? And they said no. And they really just had I don't know if they were Damasteel or something like that. I just didn't see any of the slip joints I was really interested in. And once I found out the clip is on there, even though I have heard they sell filler tabs for them. So keep that in mind. But I just looked and I saw this knife sitting there. And I picked one up. And I was like, damn, this is the one I always wanted. Because back when I had ordered that first one, a year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever it was, I saw this snakeskin gold fat carbon. And I was like, damn, that looks really good on there. And all the other versions were either plain tie or they were like mammoth bone or something molar, like crazy shit, right? Not my favorite kind of stuff. I'm not a earthy inlay guy. Like, micartas, woods, bones. Like, it's just not my thing. Even though I will admit some of those bone ones look freaking amazing and not like bone. But I saw this and I was like, God damn, that's nice. But it was $550 or $600, something like that, on the website when I was buying. And it was when, you know, that kind of money on a knife was still kind of, you know, tricky to spend, especially on a site like that where I don't think they have like Sezzle, so you're just like buying it. And back then, you know, that was a good chunk of change for me on a knife. And the plain one was $450. And my other reasoning was I've had Sebenzas in the past, and the inlays always make the knife super fat, and I just don't like that. So I was like, you know, I'm going to get the plain one. It's $450, and it's going to be smoother, right? Thinner. So that's why I got that plain one. But when I saw this at the show, I picked it up, and I was like, damn, that is not very thick. Like, it's not thicker, really. I mean, it is, but it's not like a Sebenza, right? Which this gets compared to a lot, and we'll talk about that as well. But I picked it up, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna, you know, this is gonna just flop out, and I'm gonna be like, God damn it. But, you know, and I went like that, and I was like, oh, shit, like, what? And then I closed it, and I went, let me try that again. Let me try to fill it. And I was like, oh, damn, like, it just flies out of there, locks up. It does exactly what I would expect a knife like this to do. And then I looked at it, and I was like, oh, right, I forgot about the fuller thing. And I flicked it right-handed, and I was like, whoo, shit, that's nice. That feels really, really good. Like, and I didn't remember flicking it left-handed. So I was like, yo, this is sick, but it's frame lock. So I'm going to go to flick it left-handed, and it's going to bind up, and I'm going to get all pissed. And it's like, this knife is perfect, but... oh, and I literally just jizzed my pants on site. You can ask the Arno Bernard brother who was there, and the guy from African Sporting Creations. You probably could see my face just go, oh. And then I was like, shit, I think I'm gonna have to get one of these. And then the guy there, I think it was the guy from African Sporting Creations, and God damn it, I should have looked it up, but I think his name is Jim. So sorry if I'm wrong. And he goes, he's like, yeah, we updated the detent. And I was like, what? They remembered me, even though my video 1.5, 2 years ago was desktop style. I don't know. They remember me if they would just like, because I was talking about the detent and my name was Kevin, they were like, that's got to be that fucking guy. Because my badge said Divo, not Lefty or anything. So it was just interesting that he recognized me. I don't know, maybe he had me on a hit list or something. Just kidding. But they were like, yeah, we updated detent. And then one of the brothers, and I totally phased out at this point because I was in awe of the knife. I was just sitting there like, oh my God. Like, just, you know, yeah, I was just in awe, and he's explaining this detent thing to me. They, like, changed the shape of something to a triangle. I can't remember the whole thing. But anyway, they made the freaking detent better, and it's way better. So huge props to them on that. But I'm so sorry I didn't catch the whole explanation because I was just so busy loving this knife. So I was like, all right, how much, you know, it was $560, and I was like, all right, I'll take it. And I just paid cash, and I got it, and I was like, thank you. And then they, like, thanked me for my feedback, and I don't know if, you know, I'm sure other people said the detent was light, and it should be updated, etc. But it was just very cool that they kind of remembered me and mentioned it, you know. I felt special. So they updated the detent, and then they changed from loose bearings to skiffs, which is fucking like perfect for me. You guys know I love skiffs. So this knife is literally the perfect IMamba now, you know. One other thing happened. So at the show after that, I was flicking it, and you know, and I was doing my normal thing where, like, so if you're at a show, you handle the knife for, you know, maybe a minute before you buy it, right? You don't want to be weird and, like, do all these fucking QC checks, and you're not thinking about that. You're just excited because you picked the knife up and it felt good, and you're like, yeah. And then, you know, you get back to your room or your booth or wherever you are, and you actually have a minute with it, you're like, oh, let me check if there's any issues. You know what I mean? So that's when I start checking for rock, and I'm checking for play and shit like that. And I would occasionally notice if I flicked it out like that and I would go like this, it would kind of make like a weird noise, like something was moving. I don't know what. So I was just checking screws, and I checked the insert screw, and I noticed that I could turn it a little bit. So I tightened it. And then that went away. I don't even know if it was related, but I thought it was. So then the next day, after flicking it a bunch more times, that kind of came back again. Because I'm one of those weirdos who checks for play like every 5 seconds. Because I'm like, is my pivot walking? Oh, my God. And it came back. So I was like, shit. So I tightened it again. And then when I got home, I think it was after the Blade Show haul video. You guys could check, I guess, and see if this screw is in there. And I took it out so that I could re-Loctite it. And I took it out, and the screw would not thread back in. I was going to try to just glue it real quick, glue it in. And I just could not get that screw to thread. And I was like, shit, dude, it's stripped out in there. I'm going to need a new insert and a screw. So I hit up, and the knife is functioning at this point. Like, it doesn't even affect the knife. Like, I still had great action, lock up, all of that. I just had a little bit of that weird side to side, not blade play. I want to make that clear. It's not blade play. It's just like something like, I don't know. I feel like it was the insert slightly like moving or something. Because if you're shaking the blade, you might be able to like lodge that insert, right? I don't know. It's probably in my head. So I reach out to them and I'm like, yo, is there any way I can buy a steel insert and screw because mine is stripped out? And I was like, well, I figured I'd just make a video to show them. So I recorded a couple like short videos showing that it was stripped out. I couldn't tighten it, just spin in there. And they were like, well, we've never had a steel insert strip out. Like, it's never happened, but like, you'll have to measure the steel insert with calipers and tell us the size, because they're actually custom fit. So they have a certain size for the insert, but then they sand it down to match perfectly with the lockup or the tang, so that you get that perfect lockup for each knife, right? And because a lot of it's hand done, you know what I mean? It's not just all CNC or whatever. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just try another screw. So I took one of these screws out and I put it in there, and it threaded, right? So it's not going to work because it's a longer screw and everything. But I figured out that the insert wasn't stripped out. The threads weren't stripped out. The screw threads were stripped. So they were like, okay, that makes way more sense, because we've never had one of those strip, because it's probably hardened steel versus a titanium screw or whatever. So they're like, all right, what's your address? We're going to send you the screw, and we'll get it taken care of for you. And I was like, okay. They didn't ask for money, nothing. They freaking DHL'd hardware from South Africa to me. It took I swear it took like 4 days. Maybe it was a week, but it was like 4 days, I swear. And I got it, and it came with extra hardware for down here. It was basically like a hardware set. I don't know if there was a pivot in there. There might have been, honestly. I still have it, but it actually did come with the insert. They were like, yo, they wrote me a note in there, and they were like, yeah, we included the insert just in case, but like we said, they're usually sanded to fit, so it's probably not going to work, but maybe we get lucky if that is the issue. And I just took the screw. I think there was 2 extra screws for the insert, and I Loctited it in, and I let it sit for 2 days. I did not glue it. I was just like, fuck this, I'm going to be safe. So I Loctited it, and that's where we're at now. That was like Friday, today's Sunday, something like that. Maybe it was Thursday. So I let it sit for a while, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to do this damn review, because Brett Ingram is up my ass to get the review, so I'm working on it, buddy. I'm just kidding. So that's the whole story there. And the reason I bring all that up is it really shows the character of the Arno Bernard brothers and their work and what they're doing. They care what their customers think of their products, They want to make improvements when possible, and their customer service is phenomenal. They didn't ask me for money. They could have easily. I mean, I basically said, I'll like, can I buy these? But they were like, what's your address? And they shipped it out. And it came from South Africa. That's impressive. I mean, it really is. So I want to give them props for that. And I want to make sure everybody knows this is a company that is worth buying into, right? Spending money with them is worth it because they care about their product, they want to improve it, and they also care about their customer, and they want their customer happy. So all of that is very, very good. But then we'll finally talk about the knife. The knife itself is absolutely top notch. This is one of my favorite knives ever. I've always felt that way. I just wanted it to be better detent wise, action wise, or whatever, however you want to call it. And they've accomplished that now. So now it's just game over for me. The title of this video is going to be what the Sebenza should be, because this is what the Sebenza should be. And I know a lot of you are Sebenza fans and you love the way it is on washers and all of that jazz. And I totally get it. I'm not here to say it's what the Sebenza should be for you. This is what the Sebenza should be for me, is what I'm getting at. And I just wanted a catchy title. So it is very similar to the Sebenza, which I've heard, not directly from the Arno Bernard brothers, but hearsay-wise, that they are friends with Chris Reeve, and they wanted to basically make something similar because they really like the Sebenza. And that's kind of where their starting point was. And I think that that's cool. I mean, if they're friends and they're, you know, kind of challenging themselves to make something of their own in the same vein, you know, I don't think this is a copy, a clone, or really anything. I think you can see the inspiration, basically. And inspiration, there's nothing wrong with inspiration. So they're both South African. Obviously, the Arno Bernard brothers reside there, and that's where their shop is. But both South African, and you can see the similarities, the way the inlays are, even though I like these much, much better. The clip, you know, the finish on the scales, which is one of the things I absolutely adore about Chris Reeve knives. It's probably the thing that pulls me in the most is that finish. And I love it. So I'm really glad to see somebody else doing it on a knife I actually want, right? You have a fuller instead of those stupid pyramid studs that destroy your fingers. You get a modern feel and flick, which is fantastic. You get bearings, which means smooth, shake shut action, drop to your nail, just butter. Truly butter. And you have a flipper tab that you can actually deploy really well because the detent is good. You can push button it, which is kind of a push switch, but technically a push button. You can light switch it as well. You can get this in a non-flipper. So if you don't like the flipper tab, you can just get it with only the fullers. And I gotta say, that would probably be phenomenal. But there's something about the flipper tab. I use it 80% of the time. I just love the flipper tab on it. It's so freaking sweet. You have what looks like kind of tie connector-y hardware. I don't know where that's made or anything like that. The hardware otherwise, like the body screws and stuff, does seem sort of unique, like it's their own, but they'd have to answer if the hardware is made in-house or not. But either way, it looks fantastic. The inlay is fantastic. This gold snakeskin fat carbon is gorgeous. Logo up here. I love the clip. Works extremely well. Retention feels a little bit on the lighter side depending on my pants. Like, I'm wearing a lot of shorts that are really, really thin, and the pockets are thin. So it feels like really easy to get in, but it doesn't move or come out or anything, so it's fine. But if I wear like normal pants, it's like the perfect retention, so I don't have an issue with it. Just wanted to mention that. You have a beautiful crowned spine, which is excellently done. You have some jimping up here for a little bit of traction that feels great in the hand. The ergonomics on this are top notch. I could not ask for, honestly, a more comfortable grip. It's just very neutral. Everything falls in the right place. That clip is not painful in any way. As a lefty, as a righty, you kind of feel it a little bit, honestly. They did try to plateau it there, so it's not bad, but you notice it. Being lefty, sometimes it's a benefit. So that feels really good in the hand. It's a little larger than knives I usually go for. So my usual range is somewhere like, here's a f5.5, that's 2.9. Another South African knife, Trevor Berger Urban, I think that's 2.9 as well, actually. I was thinking it was smaller, but it's not. You know, something like the Synapse here, I believe that's 3 1/4. And I'm pretty sure the IMamba is a 3.5 inch blade. I do range up there. Occasionally I'll get up to around 3.5. Like, I'm pretty sure the relative is somewhere in that neighborhood. Might be just slightly shorter than that, but very, very close in size, as you can see, to the relative. The IMamba's a little bit bigger, but so it's a little bigger than my usual size, but it just fits my hand so well, and it feels smaller. Like, the handle feels smaller. You can feel it in the blade that it's a little bigger, but it's not heavy or anything like that. So the size gets a pass for me, but this is about as big as I would want to go on a knife for EDC or anything like that. The blade. So we can talk about the blade. It has this crazy belt satin with a stupid high polish. I kind of wish it had a just normal belt satin that we'd see from like Riyadh or something like that. You can see it's mirrored essentially. I mean, that's my phone right there. You know, and you could probably see my ugly mug above it. Yeah. So, you know, the downside to that, obviously, is it smudges like absolute crazy. So anytime I just touch it, you know, you end up with fingerprints all over it. And that's not a huge deal to me personally, but I just like more traditional belt satin. It's also going to scratch easy. I might have some scratches up there already. It might just be tape. But this is a knife I use. I don't have any problem using it. Like most of my knives, it's usually going to be just the tip because I'm cutting open a bag, a pouch, cutting tape, whatever. And so this last quarter of the blade or third of the blade is what gets used the most. And then I just clean it off with KPL Knife Shield, and it's good to go. But I've really enjoyed cutting with it. It does have a hollow grind, so it's nice and thin behind that edge. It's a wonderful cutter, wonderful slicer. We can cut some paper here if you guys want to see. If you want to see how good it is at cutting paper. I mean, the edge they put on this is absolutely wonderful. I've only had it for, 2 weeks or whatever it's been, and I haven't abused it or anything like that, so I haven't needed to strop it or sharpen it or anything. What am I doing? I don't know. The steel. So some people are going to be like, oh, it's RWL 34. How dare they charge $560 for RWL 34? Yeah, I mean, think about it, guys. You get Grimsmo's for $1,200 table in RWL 34. If you guys don't know what RWL 34 is, it's similar, not the same, similar to CPM 154. I believe it's powdered. And it's in that range. I believe it's named after Bob Loveless. So Robert W., whatever that is, William, maybe Robert William Loveless, something like that, RWL. And then 34 must be some kind of composition thing. But basically, it's a good steel. Yeah, it's not Magna Cut. It's not, properly heat treated M390, but it's been around a long time, and I think it is a good steel. Plenty of people have had these knives. Nobody's complaining about heat treats or the steel in general. So I think I'm going to be fine cutting open bags and pouches and tape. But I get it, and I would love to see this in something more super steely, right? Like Van X on a IMamba, hell yeah, right? Like that's the kind of shit I want to see, but I'm not going to sit here and complain about it either. I think it's perfectly fine. The sounds on this thing are stupidly good. Listen. That click, that pop. I mean, even when it disengages from the lockup, I don't know. There's just something about the sounds on this. And like I said, it's not a guillotine, but there's something about the smoothness of that just swinging down and then clicking into position like that I love. If you get a flipper one, you can avoid the flipper tab. If you just go low enough, you can get past it and get it to swing all the way down. If that's something you're looking to do, you can do that. I like the flipper there because it's past the detent and it stops that blade from hitting me instead of the flipper. So I don't end up with this, which is what happens with all my other knives, basically. Like here's a example of another knife I have, the Jack Wolf, right? I get hit with, well, there I get hit with the end, but I think normally, let's find out if it was a bad example. No, there, see, I got hit with the blade. And then you get a line in your thumbnail from it, right? Now that's a super light blade, but you work with something a little heavier, like a relative, and this sucker comes down on you over and over because you're a fidget monster. Well, you end up with a bunch of lines. You start worrying about cracking your nail. This, you just get hit with that flipper, swing it down. The detent brake right there. It's not early. I wouldn't say it's late, but there's lockup, disengage, breakthrough right here. It doesn't feel like a ramp, but it's a smooth break. Have never had it get caught. So that's the test to me. I don't really care all that much about how early, late, or anything. Ramps, I usually don't care about any of that. As long as it clears and, yeah, as long as it clears, I'm good to go. So what else? I think that's it, guys. I mean, this knife is utterly wonderful. It's just an absolute home run. I'm so glad that I was like, okay, I got to go look at this table. Because at first I was like, yeah, should I go over there? They probably hate me, first off. And second, am I really going to want anything over there? And then I was like, that slip joint's really good. I should just go over there and look. And thank goodness I went over there, because not only did I end up with a banger of a knife, I feel like I don't know, reconciled, sort of. And I don't think they were ever upset with me or anything. But sometimes when I do reviews like that, I feel bad. Like, I feel like I've kind of dogged on them a little bit. I am just telling the truth. I just tell my experiences. That's what I do on this channel, right? But I'm not out to, like, bash people or anything. And I try, at least the longer I do this, the more I realize how brutal I can be, and I've tried to tone that down. Now, back then, I wasn't that concerned with that because I didn't realize what it, does to people. But I went back and watched that video, and I think I was very polite and everything. And I literally loved the knife to death. I just wanted the detent to be better. So I don't think they were pissed at me or anything, but I kind of felt a way about it, I guess. I felt bad. So I was like, I don't know if I want to go over there, but I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so glad that I've overshared with you now for 30 minutes about it. I'm going to shut up. I'm so sorry. This knife is phenomenal. You should get one if you want one. If you have the money and you're interested, it is phenomenal. I believe there's some kind of pre-order up right now that they're doing, shipping in July, I think. You might be able to find some available at African Sporting Creations, and maybe they have other dealers now. Check their website. Check their Instagram. You can hit them up. They're great people to chat with. And yeah, I hope you get one if you want one. I think their prices are really fair. I mean, $550 for this with the inlay and everything. I mean, that's basically Chris Reeve prices, right? You get a really good value from South African knives, I think. And I do believe these have more hand work and like more of a custom feel than a Sebenza does. So if you're wondering, like, the price is the same, but, you know. But yeah, I think this has more that goes into it than like Sebenzas are very production, you know. Both are phenomenal knives. I'm not trying to put down the Sebenza or anything. It can you know, hold its own. Don't you worry. I don't want the CRK boys coming after me, but I just want to make it clear that this is what I wanted a Sebenza to be when I bought a Sebenza. I knew it was on washers. I'm not saying that, but like, this is what I wanted. And they delivered it from Arno Bernard, and that just makes me happy. It also kind of reminds me of, like, if you took a Sebenza and a Koenig Arius and kind of whoosh, smashed them together, I think you would get an IMamba, and that is one beautiful, beautiful thing. So shout out to the Arno Bernard brothers for being awesome. Shout out to African Sporting Creations for being awesome. And that's it. I love you guys. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will catch you later.